It feels like you're in a parallel universe slightly. People that I've just met, it's so hard to get them anywhere near understanding that I just don't bother really a lot of the time, unless they have to know. When I first found out that my life expectancy is short, I think I was probably about 12, when I read in a book. It was a book that was written in like the 70s or something. So it wasn't, so I should be dead by then when I was 11. I have a genetically inherited disease called cystic fibrosis. It's had a really big impact on the way that I live my life. This is where I stay when I come into hospital. My room. I've had 76 hospital admissions. Recently it's been sort of every 2-3 months that I've had to come in.
Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition. It's the UK's most common life-threatening genetic condition. It affects around 7,000 children and adults in the UK.
Thanks.
Okay, whenever you're ready, kiddo. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good, 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 good.
It affects the salt transition in the cells in your body, which makes mucus build up in certain parts of your body, like your lungs, your pancreas, sometimes your liver.
Okay, so I'm just going to print the results off and we need to make an assessment on whether you need some antibiotics or not. For you to have CF, you need to have a gene from your mother and your father. And normally people that are carriers with CF don't normally know that they are carriers.
When my parents had me 18 years ago, there was little scientific knowledge about the disease. Were you aware of cystic fibrosis in the family before I was born?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, because Christine, my sister, and Bob, they had a daughter, and she died when she was just a few days old. It was really sad and horrible. It was just a horrible, horrible time. After sort of looking into what the reasons behind that, because it'd been a perfect pregnancy and everything, they discovered that it was the child has cystic fibrosis. So that was a huge shock to the family, and so there was a big kind of family powwow, and it was awful, and then basically all told to go off and get on with our lives. So it was in the family.
And in those days it was left very much up to the family to inform other members of the family.
Yeah, they never kind of approached you directly.
Whereas it's changed a lot now.
I hadn't really looked into it. I was kind of ignorant of it. Oh, genetic, what is it? It's really big. And it's, to my shame, it's not really a big question that I delved into.
So what do you think you would have done if you had known, or if you had had the option?
I, for one, would not have taken the pregnancy through at all. I know it's very sad seeing you sitting there and your
gorgeousness,
a complete joy to us. And every day I thank God you're in my life, but I don't think I could have looked you in the eye and brought you into the world with the full knowledge that you were going to have some really tough times.
I don't see them as bad people for thinking that they would have terminated, because I would have done the same. Parents have much more choice now than when I was born. Developments in genetic science have changed our understanding of the disease. Alison Lashwood is a specialist who counsels people about the options that they now have. Hello. Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Before your parents' generation, even if somebody knew they'd already had a child with cystic fibrosis or were at risk, there wasn't anything that could have been done about that in terms of testing in a future pregnancy. Once you've found the gene and found the fault in the gene, you can start to look at ways of trying to make it better, to try and repair it. Can we do anything to stop this happening?
So what exactly is available around testing?
For cystic fibrosis, what we have to get to test is some DNA. The way of extracting DNA in the most useful manner is by getting a blood sample. We then extract the DNA from that sample, which has the genetic information about cystic fibrosis, and we magnify the area on chromosome 7 that actually carries the gene for cystic fibrosis.
Genetic testing has changed not only the way we think about cystic fibrosis, but about other aspects of our genetics. Alan Pacey specialises in IVF.
When we perform in vitro fertilisation to help a couple have children, an embryo is created in the laboratory, and that allows us the opportunity to look at that embryo in much more detail than would normally happen if a couple were getting pregnant naturally. We can screen that embryo for a variety of things, something quite simple as sex. We can tell what sex an embryo is before we put it back into a woman's body. But we can go deeper than that. We can screen that embryo for genetic diseases, cystic fibrosis being an obvious example, and we can make sure that the child that's born doesn't have cystic fibrosis by putting back an embryo that doesn't have the mutation.
Genetic testing can be controversial. The Garfields are a deaf family who are concerned that genetic testing may result in compulsory termination of embryos carrying genes for deafness. What is it that you're campaigning for within genetic testing?
The deaf community are upset because of the government's proposed bill. This states that when a woman can't get pregnant naturally and embryos are genetically tested, if a deaf gene is found, it should be screened out. This sets up a legal principle that a deaf life is worth less than a hearing life.
In my case, I want to screen a cystic fibrosis gene out. It causes illness and there's early death, or, it's life-threatening illness. Do you make a distinction between deafness and cystic fibrosis and other genetic illnesses?
Society doesn't really fully understand what deafness is. They see it as an illness and a life full of hospital visits. They haven't looked at our culture, the richness of that culture, the arts and the theatre we enjoy, the fact that we can drive and do all the things that other people do. They think, OK, you can't hear, let's modify you, so that you fit in with the society that they want.
Embryo screening can open up a whole range of issues that we need to discuss and debate. I suppose at the very end of the spectrum is whether or not we should investigate this level of screening, perhaps to look at things like eye colour, hair colour, and whether or not the child is more likely to play the violin or be a good footballer.
Everyone wants, obviously, healthy kids. And I think I definitely take the opportunity to have healthy kids. But I also want to live in a world which accepts people's differences. It's really weird, I always think it's really made me who I am. So in a strange way, I'm not grateful for it, but happy with how it has made me who I am. I think I've got a different outlook on life that's quite important to have. You can't live each day as if it was your last, but just do what you can with each. That's my outlook.